Hello and welcome to Medical Money, our next episode. Today we are talking about CYA, or covering your assets. Once again, my name is Kirk Roberts. I am a registered nurse and also a licensed financial representative. I have today here with me Ben, who is also an advanced EMT and firefighter, also a licensed financial representative. And I'd like to introduce Ben. Ben?
Hey guys, so super excited to be here. Like Kirk said, I've been working in finances for several years, and longer than that, I've been doing firefighting and EMS for over a decade. Between volunteer and full-time career firefighting, it's been a ride. Love what I do, and I love bringing a lot of value to not only to the fire department that I work with, but also to my clients as well. I love getting into finances and making sure that people have a better understanding of how your money works. So I always want to make sure that people are ready to go, they're set, and they have a plan to move forward, okay? The last thing we want is to have your financial house on fire, and even better yet, we don't want you in it, okay? So I'm super excited to be here with you, Kirk. I know it's going to be a great episode.
Awesome. So guys, remember today our podcast and our episodes are to help healthcare professionals take control of their finances and to build wealth and redesign their lifestyle. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about covering your assets. Really, we're going to get down to the definition of what is an asset and what's a liability. And really, honestly, those two concepts are going to be what the basis of all of our episodes are about, is assets and liabilities. And so before we go into this, I want to recommend also as well to subscribe and also send this to other friends and family members and even other healthcare professionals that you know that want to learn about money and finance. So in finance, there's different definitions of an asset liability. So let's kind of go back, so Ben, as a first responder and whatnot, when you hear the word asset, what would you typically think of?
Honestly, it's something that's going to make my life better, or my life easier. We obviously go on a lot of calls, both fire and medical, and the first thing that comes to mind is Lucas. We get dispatched on a full arrest, get details from dispatch, we get on scene, it's chaotic, there's commotion, and honestly, there's may not be enough people there to help out with. And so you have someone like Lucas that's going to help out with compressions, right? Something that's very important and obviously very needed in a full arrest situation. But I don't want to be focusing my whole entire time on doing just compressions, right? We have to provide airway, we have to get medications on board, we have to do all these different things. And if I'm just focused on providing compressions, as important as that is, that's taking my time and attention away from other things that are also important. So, Lucas has saved my back plenty of times. And
so basically you're talking about automation. In the sense of circulation, airway, breathing, right, and defibrillation. Those are the things we worry about in the healthcare profession, and Lucas helps automate CPR so that you can focus on other patient care.
Yep.
So, and in reality, in changing it, so that's kind of the view we look at in assets in the medical world. But when we're talking assets in the financial world, what are we talking about? So let me give you an example that I think is funny. If you look it up right now, an asset, like Investopedia.com says, like, an asset is like a resource with economic value that an individual or corporation or country owns and controls with the expectation for provide future possible income. Now, how many of us really understood that, right? Yeah, exactly. No one's understanding that. But let's go to another place. Economic Times. It says, assets are things that you own, you can sell for money. Simpler, but probably not the best. I really like Robert Kiyosaki. He puts things simple and basic and to the point. And his definition, which I think we should use, are assets put money in your pocket, whether you're working or not, and liabilities take money out of your pocket. All right, let's get this again. So, money, assets, right? Assets put money into your pocket, whether you're working or not. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. There it is, guys. Boom. Done. All right. So with that being said, he's talking about earned income and passive income, right? This is what we're kind of talking about. We're going to talk about anything that puts money into your pocket, earned in or passive income. And passive income is obviously money that's working for you, and you may not even be there.
Nope.
Right? And so, and passive income is the dream. It's the financial freedom. It's what we want to do. It's how the wealth The wealthy people in the United States are actually doing it. They have passive income, right? Multiple sources of income. So let's break this down. Anything that puts money into your pocket, anything that takes money out of your pocket is a liability. So I know accountants have more of a technical term for it in medical money, and let's talk about medical money. We're going to talk about what are examples of an asset. The biggest asset we have, you. You are your biggest asset. You, as a healthcare professional, you went to all the schooling, you're providing patient care, you're earning income, you are your best asset. And as that, you're producing value. So if you can earn money, you're an asset. Now, investing in yourself is one of the smartest things you can actually do. So that's like improving your skills. So as a EMT and whatnot, you guys are out in the field, do you not have constant training? Do you not have constant improvement in things you're trying to do?
Oh yeah. We're always training, we're always practicing our skill set, we're always taking what we have and always improving, right? You always want to grow and get to that next level. Because really that's what our community is expecting of us. They're expecting us to be able to go on scene, right? Or they walk into the ER department and they expect you to get a job done, right? They're expecting you to save that person's life. They're having the worst day of their life, and they're expecting you to be that savior for them. And if you're not ready, if you're not prepared, you're a liability.
And same thing with nursing. I mean, the same thing with the healthcare professional. We're constantly doing continuing education, constantly doing focusing on our skills and improving ourselves. So you yourself are your best asset. And most of us go and get more degrees, right? Like I got my BSN in acute care nursing, I got my MBA, I went and got my FNP. I'm constantly trying to build myself like that. So you yourself are your number one asset. Now, a lot of people think that like business example is a good asset, produces income. Let's talk about a business that everyone recognizes, everyone gets, and kind of break it down for a minute. Example, McDonald's. Ben, can you make a better hamburger than McDonald's?
Depending on the microwave. Yeah.
True statement. Yeah. So with that being said, but look at this, McDonald's. It's a corporation that's known throughout the world. Does anyone ever see the owner of McDonald's flipping the burgers, out there taking orders? Can you move your car ahead a little bit? No one's doing that, right? The owners are making money and even have people who don't even speak English pushing the button, making that deal. It's a system that's been created so that anyone can plug into it, and it's creating business and income. And by the way, we will be talking about something called the cash flow quadrant, also something made by Robert Kiyosaki, where we talk about an employee, self-employed, investor, and business owners as well. So that's a further podcast on that. So a business is an example of having an asset that provides you income. Now, think about this. What if you in the healthcare profession could think about a business opportunity, like a med spa? Because I know everyone wants to do aesthetics, right? Or everyone like a mobile IV hydration service or a YouTube channel sharing tips that produces you money. That would be an asset. I know that everyone that I talk to all the time is like, I want to buy real estate. And how many shows are there out there right now that are talking about flip this house, ugliest house wins, whatever, right? It's all over the place. And I think you even have mentioned in our conversation before in the past that you have buddies that have properties, right?
Oh yeah. Nothing against real estate, right? If that's what you want to do, then hey, more power to you. But you also have to take a look at it of first, okay, what's the goal, right? Or is the goal to have passive income, or is it just to collect properties? And you also have to start looking at, okay, well, what's going to come with this property? Like everyone focuses on that passive income, but by the time that you get in there, I mean, gosh, you're
tenants, toilets, termites.
Oh god, I have one of my partners. He had a property that he was using as an Airbnb, and we were actually on shift, and he got a phone call from Airbnb and looking on his cameras and stuff, and there was a party that had happened the weekend before, completely trashed the place, right? Completely trashed it, and so now he has to go and spend more time, more energy, more money. Not just, Airbnb I think helped out in the situation, but he still had to fork out stuff in his own pocket to go up and replace that, right? And now if he's cash flowing a lot of that so that, it makes sense, then great, right? But you also want to look at, okay, what's the bigger picture of things, right? Am I buying an asset or am I buying a headache?
100%. And it comes back to our definition again of an asset puts money into your pocket. If it's taking money out of your pocket, it's a liability. And so real estate could be an example where you say you buy a duplex and then the then you rent out the other side, and the rental from one actually then pays for the mortgage. That would be considered an asset, right? So I know that we had talked earlier in the past about other like assets, and we're talking like the markets. We're talking stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, gold, silver, crypto, retirement accounts. These are all things, and by the way, we will be going over this in extensive detail of the different ways that you can utilize the market to actually then create assets and passive income. So the markets is an awesome opportunity that we'll be bringing up in the future. Now, another thing that people don't realize is there's intellectual properties. These are properties like, say, like an artist or whatever creates something, they actually can get royalties from it or own it. Example, Lucas, you brought it up before, an automated CPR system. Well, the owner of that saw the need, created Lucas, and then created a company where they created Lucas, then provide a service that you as first responders can actually get to, and so that's intellectual properties. So we're talking like books, courses, apps, patents, whatever. So these are all types of intangible things that can also create value and create income for you. So think about like a nurse who creates a book on anti-stress or burnout, sells it on Amazon, and now that's passive income.
There you go.
That would be an asset. Now, I also know of some people that are thinking about like online courses, and everything's going to online, YouTube videos, Instagram, TikTok, all that, where people talk about things, and some people have actually had like online courses where they discuss things, where they discuss content, or let's say that you're a provider, like I don't know, PA or whatever, an NP, and you create a course that actually then creates for continuing medical education, and you get money from that. That would be considered an asset. So, and then also you have like rental equipment. So like say you rent out stuff, like I know hospitals rent equipment most of the time, and those companies are receiving that money from that rental, and that's considered an asset. So let's flip the coin, no pun intended, but let's talk about liabilities. Once again, liability coming out of your pocket. So according to Investopedia, once again, liability is something that a person or a company owes, usually a sum of money. So I know, like I said before, let's go back to Robert Kiyosaki, what he said, assets put money in your pocket, whether you're working or not, and liabilities take money out of your pocket. So in simpler terms, you are responsible for paying for something, right? And here's the kicker. Most people are spending their money in liabilities. I think you actually brought it up earlier when you said that people are buying these liabilities. They're not buying assets. And that's actually the problem. The wealthy purchase assets. The rest of those who are poor are actually buying liabilities. And that's where people get stuck. And they're buying houses they can't afford, right? They're living in homes that they can't afford. It's draining them financially, especially where we live here. People buy these huge homes, these expensive cars, and it's that whole look about it, the keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing. And they rack up all these credit cards, and then they wonder why they're drowning.
Yeah.
And so anyways, examples of liability. Kind of some things that most common things that people like us have in the healthcare world, your car.
I'll tell you what, Kirk, I work hard for my money, and I know a lot of us do. We go to school, we go to get these courses, we eventually get a job.
Yeah.
In our case, we have to go through a year-long probation, trying to keep the job.
Yeah.
And as soon as we start getting pay raises, right, whether that's either an annual basis or however that works, a lot of people, they go and they buy these liabilities, right? I know you're going to mention cars here. And you go to any fire station, I promise you one thing, you're going to see a lot of pickup trucks. And they're going to be all lifted, maybe have, some smokestacks, right? You got to be, macho firemen. Which, not necessarily is that a bad thing, like if you can afford it, but I think a lot of the times people, they just get into this mindset, and we'll talk about mindset and money mindset in the future. A lot of times they self-justify this purchase as, hey, I'm going to buy this asset, I'm going to buy this really big truck because X, Y, and Z, right? Now, there could be a lot of different situations that come up where maybe it is a great purchase. Maybe I own a construction company and I need to use my pickup truck to haul material, get my trailers, my tools, equipment, things like that. That's helping to provide that income, and so because it's putting that money in my pocket, now I'm purchasing more of an asset.
Well, and then you could also use that as a tool of your business and as a deduction within your
You
business.
start getting tax write-offs.
Exactly.
You start working smarter versus harder. But what ends up happening is people they self-justify. Oh, I'm gonna do X, Y, or Z, right? But as soon as they buy the truck, guess what comes next? The boat, the four-wheeler, the campers, the toys, the all of these extra things. Which again, they're not necessarily a bad thing. But make sure that you can afford it first, right? Make sure that your assets are always outweighing what your liabilities are.
100%. Well, and even if you have a new car, you have immediately as you drive it off the lot or whatever, it depreciates in value. You have the cost of gas, or if it's an electric car, you have cost of electricity, maintenance, insurance, all these things. So once again, if you're not using it in a business sense or whatever, it could be a liability. One that I think is going to probably be, most people are going to be like, what, really? A home. A home is not an asset. I know everyone thinks it is, and I know the accountants think, yeah, your home's an asset, but remember the definition. Puts money into your pocket. Or is it taking money out of your pocket? You're paying a mortgage, you're paying taxes every year, you're paying for maintenance costs, and even if your home was paid off, you still have to pay all those things. Taxes, it just doesn't go away. Maintenance. So a lot of people view their home as an asset when in reality it's not. Well, but I have equity in my home. But here's my question again: are they taking the money out right then? Are they utilizing the money right now? No. Well, no, it's not an asset.
No, and maybe in the past that was the case. If you're moving around, like growing up, we moved quite frequently just due to my dad's education needs and work, things like that. And so if you're constantly upgrading and you're using things like that equity to help purchase another home to help you upgrade, then great. You're putting, in a roundabout way, you're putting that money back into your pocket to improve your lifestyle, right? But you look at things how they are now, and COVID changed a lot of things. At least here, where we're at. When I built my house probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and we got in at a great time, love the house, and we have a lot of equity in it. But if I were to sell my house now and move even across the street or down the road or into another county, if I were to move and go somewhere else, all of those assets are going to something that's the exact same quality as the house that I have right now, if not downgrading. Right?
Yeah, you might even have to pay more.
I might have to pay more, yeah.
So you get out a chunk of money that you just sold your house for, and now you have to go get another house, and that's going to be a higher price because inflation and the house prices are going up, and now that's eating all your cost.
Yep.
So not an asset.
No, right. At least not a regular or a passive asset,
yeah.
Right? And if there's things that you can do with a home and like a home equity line of credit or a HELOC, you can use that to maybe do home improvements, things like that. And yeah, you have some things available, but would you rather have something that's there potentially to use or potentially to help you break even or whatever the case is, or would you rather have something that's providing you a regular income? Because you look at all the time that we put into our jobs, our career, we're trading our time for money, and where's that money going? Right? What's that sacrifice worth? I would much rather spend time with my family, spend time with my kids, go and travel. I love to travel. But if I'm going through and I'm spending all this money now so I can keep up with the Joneses, so I can have the next fancy house or whatever, then I'm almost wasting my time.
Well, and you even brought up the idea of taking out a HELOC, and that's definitely something we'll talk about in a future podcast where we'll talk about HELOCs, debt, and all that kind of stuff. But people then take that debt, thinking they're going to make improvements, but now they've got the mortgage payment and the HELOC payment, and now they're in trouble, right? One of the big ones that everyone in healthcare worries about is student loans. We're talking doctors, nurses, practitioners. Everybody's worried about student loans. That is a liability. Yeah, you are improving yourself, but now you're still paying for it. So obviously the objective is to actually create a plan on where we get you out of debt and get you out of that student loan. One of the biggest challenges, which I think is the cancer of the United States, credit card debt.
Yeah.
And how much into the trillions of dollars that people have where they're actually discussing how debt is consuming us. How can you save money if you're in constant debt? But once again, isn't that just buying liabilities most of the time?
You know, and think that, again, that goes back to kind of that self-justification that a lot of people have, is they go and they look at these credit cards and, there's great marketing and stuff, and, they market all the benefits, right? Like, for example, like I said, I like to travel, right? I can go and get 20 different credit cards that all give me miles, right? But what's the interest behind that credit card? Am I buying more of the miles or am I buying more of the interest?
Right.
At least in the end. I like to think that, oh yeah, I'm going to use all these miles and pay for, that we've done it. There's, if you know the game and you know you have a system in place and it fits in with your overall plan, there's different things that you can do to take advantage of those benefits, right?
Yeah.
But people get sucked into it. They
All
get
right.
sucked into it more and more, and before you know it, they're drowning in credit card debt.
And they're living in their credit cards.
Yeah.
Like literally, their lifestyle is forcing them to live off their credit cards to maintain that lifestyle. And even something that I've noticed before that I see so many companies out there right now, and this is something we'll definitely be going over in our podcast about debt, good debt, bad debt, all these kind of things, and how to manage that. But we're also going to talk about how people, there's companies out there that are saying, we have a solution for you. And like I said, we'll be talking about it, these credit card consolidation loans. We're talking about, people doing bankruptcy, all these kind of things. So we will be discussing that, but credit card debt definitely a huge liability in cancer. Another thing that people don't realize a lot is subscriptions and lifestyle stuff. How many people have subscriptions that they don't even know they're paying for, and all of a sudden they're like, what, I'm paying how much a month for what? Right? And are they really using it? Is this something that they're doing to improve their life, improve their lifestyle? Do you have like 5 accounts of some Amazon thing or whatever, sort of like TikTok thing or what? So subscriptions and lifestyle stuff. So these are all liabilities, and it's not like you can't enjoy nice things. It's about being strategic, right? It's about, are you buying things that pay you or are you buying things that drain you? And I think that's really the problem. So, like, case in point, let's say you have 2 nurses. One makes about $90,000 a year. Nurse A, she buys a brand new car, just like you said, gets a $50,000 SUV, has a $2,200 mortgage, eats out 4 times a week. So she's house rich, but she's cash poor, right? She has no investments, no assets, just paying bills all the time. Now, take Nurse B. Okay, so also makes $90,000 a year, buys a modest house, gets a used car. Actually, let's say that she's a rental place for now, and then uses the extra cash that maybe she puts in the markets, gets some dividend earning things. Eventually buys like a small little rental property, and in 5 years now she has like $500 a month coming in as passive income. Well, that's creating freedom and wealth. So totally 2 different outcomes. $90,000 a year, 2 nurses. One's buying debt, and one's buying wealth. Right, and so really, and you think about how many more examples for like healthcare professionals, like you've heard of this, like a nurse who uses a tax refund to actually then purchase equipment to buy like a mobile IV unit and creates a business. Or what about a respiratory therapist who like takes a PRN shift, like an extra pickup shift, and then uses that extra income to invest in a Roth IRA? That would be an awesome asset building example. Or like I said before, a PA that actually creates like an online CME course where they can actually then get it accredited and then use that passive income to fulfill a need for the healthcare professionals and then also receive that income.
Let me ask you this, Kirk. These are great ideas, but how many nurses have the Gucci bags or Louis Vuitton?
Oh, 100%. I said on the flip side, how many nurses say, oh, I'm taking my bonus or I'm taking whatever and I'm going to go get that new bag? Or I'm going to go get this new stuff, or I'm going to get the new whatever. I don't know. But then, what about tech? This is actually something I hear all the time. I'm going on this awesome vacation. I'm going to Fiji, whatever it is, and they take out a loan or do it on credit card debt, and they go do this massive vacation and come back, and then they're paying it for the next how many years, right? So it comes back to my comment that I made in the first episode that I said, which is that term. Does this make sense or does this make dollars? Are you tripping over dollars to pick up the pennies? So let's let that sink in, guys. Are you a consumer mentality or are you an ownership mentality? And talk to me like when you actually went into into healthcare and became a first responder, what was the kind of the expectation for you? What were you thinking? Like, what were they teaching you?
As far as like what.
Like the mindset of what you should be doing.
Honestly, it was get a certification, then get another certification, then get another certification, then go apply, go test, go, climb that corporate ladder, if you will. And it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard to at first to get those certifications. It was hard to get a job. Had to go through probation, and you sacrifice a lot to get to where you want to be.
But it was the mentality of go get a job, get the education, go get a job, and then you can buy new things.
Then you,
right?
then you have that.
Go live the lifestyle.
Then you have that freedom.
Right. But like wealthy people all the time, they're buying things. I don't think I know of any wealthy people that I know that actually go, I'm just going to go buy stuff.
Yeah.
They're always like, how can I make money by buying this? How can I this purchase create passive income for me or create money, put money into my pocket, right? So, and you talked about the financial house. If you build your financial house on pure liabilities, it's not going to stand long, right? It's like a burning fire.
Honestly, you're going to be buying more. I mean, no judgment or anything, but you're probably going to be buying more of a trailer park or a rundown something. Maybe some out in the middle of nowhere, a little hut, or because you have nothing. Honestly, you have nothing going for you. Because all of your liabilities are sucking you dry of everything that you make.
Right?
Now, if you were to go through and identify a goal, right? What kind of house do I want? Do I want to have this little podunk thing, or do I want the mansion, right? Of course, everyone's going to say the mansion, right? But how are you going to get there, right? What's the plan that's going to give you those steps to get going, right? It's not quick, okay? It's not this, get rich quick or anything like that. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes hard work, and more than anything, it takes this up here, okay? Because this right here, like what you said earlier, you are your biggest asset. This right here is what's going to get you to that next level, okay? What kind of mindset are you having to continue to grow? Do you have a fixed mindset, and are you have the blinders on? Nope, this is the only way. I'm going to do this, this, and this. Or are you taking those blinders off, and are you looking around you saying, oh,
what are the opportunities?
Wow. Like, for example, I like to travel.
Yeah.
I could go through and, like you said, take loans out. I could put it on credit cards. I could self-justify, oh, I'm getting miles or this or that, right? And I could go and take a couple trips, go to Disneyland or Hawaii, things like that. Have a great time and get a lot of experiences. But what's the stress going to be like when I get home? And two, what is that doing for me in the long run? Okay, and again, don't get me wrong, I love to do all these things. But if I simply switch my way of thinking and say, okay, I have this passion, I have, whether that's healthcare or travel or whatever the case is, how can I take this passion and turn it into an asset, right? So instead of just taking all these loans out to go on these vacations, maybe start a blog, right? Or a vlog. Nowadays, everything's on YouTube. But, go around, start maybe doing, start your own podcast. Right.
Well, so basically you're talking like a gig. Create something gig on something on the side. Yeah. And by the way, we will be discussing gig economics, side hustles, definitely. No, I get your point. And I think the underlying thing you're really talking about, not only with mindset, is creating that plan. I think creating the plan is, and we will be discussing this, guys, and it's always going to come back to the plan of what is your plan, how can you build assets, and not be buying liabilities. And so what can we do right now? Like right now, what can we do? Let's start today. First things first, you got to audit your money. What's your income? What's your output, right? You got to see what your money's doing. You can't just be winging and go, oh my gosh, I can't afford this. And haven't you seen how many people are now with too much month at the end of the money, right? And they just don't have enough to even do anything. So start small, right? So you're going to look at all your stuff. How many times are you going to Starbucks a week? How many times are you going out to eat? Just look at your money. What's my income and what's my output? So that's the first thing to do, is create an audit of your money. Next thing, you got to start small. You can open an investment account, and we'll talk about this don't worry about it, we'll talk about it. An investment account, you can start a Roth IRA between 25 to 50 bucks a month.
Yep.
Easy.
Super easy.
And set up in retirement and then watch it grow. Definitely going to be going over that in big time. Learning. We talked about, trying to improve yourself, that you're the greatest asset. Books, YouTube things, podcasts, creating your brain. I actually use a couple apps right now that I use that help kind of helped me understand some books and summarizations of books because I'm trying to improve myself at all times. So that's a great way to improve, right? So the next thing that you can do right now is actually reframe big purchases. And what I'm talking about is like maybe you don't buy the brand new car until you can actually cover that cost, or work towards actually making your purchases something that your assets can buy for you. We'll be discussing that in the future as well. So really, here's the challenge this week. We want to challenge you to look at where your money's at right now. What are you spending it on? Is this something that's putting money in my pocket? Is it putting the money into my pocket, or is it taking money out of my pocket? Does this make sense, or does this make dollars, guys? So that's the end of today's podcast. Wanted to say thank you so much for being here today. We are going to be talking about our next topic. Will be on mindset. Like Ben was talking about the mindset of money and how we think about money. Definitely subscribe. Have those individuals who you think that can benefit from this. They're great at saving lives, but are they great at saving their own finances? You can send your comments and questions to medicalmoneycash@gmail.com, and we'd be more than happy to try to help answer those as well as incorporate them into future podcasts. So once again, glad to have you guys here, and we'll see you on the next trip on Medical Money. Thanks for being here today.
Have a good one.